this is Lorenzo. In this age of electronic communication, we have many very efficient ways to send messages. Sometimes, however, it's nice to add a little historical style with a handwritten letter. Today we'll be talking about writing and sealing letters in a 16th century style. There are a large number of extant letters that we can use as examples of both form and content. I've included links in the notes for more detailed information. For writing the letter, you'll need some basic materials. Modern letter-sized paper works perfectly well, as it falls within the range of period paper dimensions. You'll want to make sure that the paper you choose will take ink well and also create crisp folds. 100% cotton or linen rag paper is ideal. Resume paper is inexpensive and works well for this application. A bone folder will help you make good creases when you fold your letter. Any hard, rounded object will work as well, even your fingernail. Test it first to make sure it won't mark or damage your paper. You can use whatever sort of pen you like for writing. Quills, steel nibs, and even felt-tip calligraphy pens will do the job. You can decide what level of accuracy is right for you. Now that we have everything we need, let's start writing.
First, fold your paper in half to create a bifolium. You will be writing on the inner leaf, while the outer leaf will protect the finished letter packet. You may also make a fold about an inch in from the first fold, creating a guideline for the left margin of your writing. The first part of the letter is the salutation. The form of the salutation is determined by the relative status of the writer to the recipient. When writing to a social superior, the salutation will include honorifics and titles appropriate to show respect. For an equal, you would use less formal endearments. Someone of low social standing, like a servant, would receive the least elaborate greeting, perhaps even just their name. The most formal reference to the recipient is in the superscription, which we will get to later. The body is the main portion of the letter, containing whatever news, request, or instruction the sender needs to convey. There were a number of letter writing manuals published in the 16th century providing the proper forms for writing a letter. These, in turn, grew out of medieval rhetorical formularies. The text was often written in a secretary or italic hand, with less precision than you would see in a manuscript. Writing begins at the left margin and goes all the way to the edge of the paper. There may be a break between the salutation and the body, or the body may start immediately. As paper was an expensive commodity, leaving blank space was a sign of respect for the recipient. If the body of the letter was very long, it might continue into the left margin, or extend onto the backside of the inside leaf. Often the body ends with a statement of when and where the letter was written. The letter ends with the subscription. The placement and wording of the subscription is another marker of the relationship between sender and recipient. Here again, blank space is a sign of respect, so the higher the relative station of the recipient, the further down and to the right the subscription will be. The wording of the subscription shows similar levels of politeness as the salutation. Finally, the signature offers an opportunity to show the artistry and style of the sender. The unique form of the signature may also serve as an indicator of authenticity, as it does today.
Once the letter is written, it's time to fold and seal it. Before the invention of the envelope, a letter served as its own container. Sealing the letter lets the recipient know that it hasn't been opened along the way. The wax bears the impression of the sender's personal seal and must be broken before the letter can be read. There are also other letter-locking features that can add extra security. Before we start folding, let's look at how to use wax to seal your letter.
To seal the letter, you will need sealing wax. Modern sealing wax is usually more flexible than period waxes, since it needs to be able to survive the stresses of modern mechanical postal machinery. The older, more brittle types of wax can still be found, but take a little more searching. Your wax may have an integral wick like a candle, or it may require a flame to melt it. You can use a lighter to drip the wax onto your letter, or heat the end of the stick with a candle and apply it directly. You can also melt the wax in a metal spoon and pour it in place. Experiment with your wax to see what works best for you. Once the melted wax is in place, you will make an impression with a seal matrix. Period matrices may be in the form of rings or fobs with an engraved design. An easy way to make a personalized matrix is to carve your design into a piece of baked sculpey or soapstone. You can also purchase seal matrices with generic designs. To make the impression, simply press the matrix into the wax and wait a few seconds for it to set. You may need to let the wax cool a little before you make the impression if it is still very liquid. Slightly moistening the surface of the matrix will also help to keep the wax from sticking. If you get a bad impression, you can carefully remelt the wax with a lighter and try again. To fold the letter, we will use our bone folder again. Depending on the letter locking technique you use, you may also need a sharp knife, scissors, or an awl. One of the most common letter locking techniques is the fold and tuck method. To begin, fold the letter in thirds, top to bottom. The proportions do not need to be exact. Next, take the right-hand edge of the packet and fold it in about 1/5 of the way to make a flap. Then, fold the other end so it overlaps the first flap. Open up the first flap and tuck the second inside. Make sure all the folds are firm and flat. Apply the wax seal over the seam. Finally, you will add the superscription to the unsealed side of the packet. This serves both as the delivery address and as the first impression the sender makes on the recipient. It will include all the formal titles of the recipient and their location if it is not common knowledge. Here you may also include instructions such as deliver post haste or an intermediary through whom the letter may be received. Another security feature is a paper lock that must be cut to open the letter. For this example, begin by folding the letter in half, top to bottom. Open it back up and fold each end in close to the first fold. This is a gatefold. Fold the center again and make sure all the folds are flat and crisp. Fold the entire packet in half lengthwise. Cut a triangular piece of paper to use as a lock. Using a sharp knife, cut a slit near the middle of the packet. Open the slit and feed the point of the triangle through the opening. Cut the tip of the triangle with a knife or scissors, then fold the two halves in opposite directions. Melt the wax on top of the tip of the lock. Fold the wide end of the triangle onto the wax and press it in place with your seal matrix. Finally, add the superscription, writing across the lock if you want an extra level of security. This method uses floss to secure the letter packet. Begin again by folding the letter in half, top to bottom. Fold in the ends to make a gatefold as before. Fold the ends in again to make a double gatefold. Be sure to leave some room in the center. Fold the center again and make sure everything is flat and crisp. Fold the entire packet in half lengthwise. With a sharp awl or needle, pierce a hole all the way through the packet near the open end. Now take a needle and use it to sew through the hole with embroidery floss. Period examples would use silk floss, using different colors for different occasions. Cotton floss works just as well in any color you like. Once the floss is wound around the packet tightly, apply your seal to one side. You can also use floss without sewing through the packet, but then it must be sealed across the floss on both sides to secure it. Once the seal is in place, trim any extra floss with scissors. Finally, add your superscription. This type of packet is very small and can be concealed in the hand for secret love notes or spycraft.
I hope I've given you some ideas for sending more interesting and memorable messages. Until next time, write more letters and stay safe.